When we were first paired, I dove into looking at Álvaro's photos, the work that he'd already done online. By the time we first met, I had sort of identified some themes in his photography that I thought could lend themselves well to a series set to music. I was particularly excited by some of his sunrise and sunset photos. I was particularly struck by some of his photos from the mountains.
From the beginning, kind of we matched with what we had in mind, and I think from that point on we end up feeding off each other's work, because the pieces that you were starting to compose helped me also to select the composition while I was taking the photos.
Yeah, so we knew we were both very interested in nature and in the experience of exploring nature, and he was exploring a region where he's hiked a lot throughout his life, which is near where his family's from, in Portugal. And I decided one theme that I could go ahead and start working on musically was this idea of a gradual sunrise. And so that he knew I was working on that. I started composing, inspired by the images I knew that he had taken before, but sort of this vision that I had in my mind. And then he went and shot a series of photos in this mountain range and the sunrise in the, coming up over the mountains and into the valley. And they were gorgeous. They were really, really gorgeous, and they really captured what I was exploring in that first movement. The first movement, the piece Harmonia, the first movement is chroma, and I really was musically playing with the gradual evolution of colors, going from very dark and low and then gradually brightening, as you see in the sky when the sun rises, and his images really, really tied in well to that. And musically, I decided to structure the entire movement around these harmonies where some voices stay on an open fifth, and then other voices move up chromatically, up by chromatic half steps. And you end up with these different harmonies that have different colors. The chords have colors, and color, is something we talk about a lot in music as well. Yeah, so the first movement started with music, and then photos came and shaped what I did with the music, but really like the photos were coming to match the music. The second movement was the opposite, where we started with the photos and kind of the story and the experience of hiking.
But then we have the third movement.
And then there was the third movement.
And it built a little short story around the moon that connects with the rest of the story.
Yeah.
And comes in full cycle.
Yeah, and it is very much a contrast to the opening, the sun, the lightning, the colors evolving. It's a very muted, pale movement as the photos of the moon. And so he shot new photos of the moon for that third movement, and those photos show the moon in different phases, they're really spectacular set as well. So we really have three quite distinct groups of photos, and we have three completed musical movements that are also quite different from each other. And our job tonight, our homework for tonight, is that we're in the process of deciding exactly where in the music each photo is going to be shown and how we're going to transition between them.
Yeah, but remember, we had a hard time defining the name of our project.
Oh, yes.
The final name of our project.
Yeah. So we went with the word harmonia, not to mean harmony, but to mean this ancient Greek concept of a system with parts that are all unified into a cohesive whole. Later philosophers, Kepler is probably the biggest named one, described it as a music of the spheres. If you're applying it to astronomy and celestial bodies, that there is a music between the movement of celestial bodies.
Which is perfect because that's exactly what we have.
So we realized this, and it just seemed to really fit. But we came to it after the project was essentially pretty close to completed, right? After all the material was there, we realized like, oh, the harmonia, the balance and the proportions that we talked about, the two movements balancing each other.
At some point we have the word satera, which is balance in Latin.
Yes.
Which is under harmonia.
And so this sort of turned into a music of the spheres. One of the movements being the music of the rising sun. And it's not just the sun, it's the sun in the sun's illumination of this space. So it's the harmonia of the place also. And then the middle one is the harmonia of the forest. And then the third one is the harmonia of the moon rising.
Our second sphere.
Yeah, exactly. The other sphere and the music between them. So that one, I don't know, we got kind of excited by that concept, and it seemed like the right name for it. And